Welcome back to Newsday. Thank you for staying with us. Now, in local news, the authorities in Nigeria say there has been an increase in snake bites as severe floods continue being experienced in parts of the country. According to an official of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Nasir Gwarzo, snakes are now jostling with humans for shelter in most cities experiencing floods. He said that after the snake bites, outbreaks of epidemics such as cholera, typhoid, fever, and many other diseases may likely follow. He said the ministry had urged health facilities to stock sufficient anti-venoms owing to the increase in snake bites. Nigeria is being hit by some of its worst flooding in over a decade. The authorities say that more than 1 million people have been displaced.
Now, officers belonging to Nigeria's election management body, the Independent National Electoral Commission, were this week attacked and set on fire in the southwest states of Ogun and Osun. In reaction to that, INEC has summoned a security meeting to review the attacks, as well as plot a way forward. But right now, we're being joined by Arise news analyst Kayode Otitoju to discuss these attacks and how failure to stop further occurrence might affect preparations for the conduct of the 2023 elections. Good afternoon, Mr. Otitoju. Good to have you.
Good afternoon, Cynthia.
Of course, you know, the last time you were here, I asked you about a potential postponement of the elections. You were optimistic that as long as the president is determined, you know, to see this through, that you're optimistic that's what would happen. In light of what we're seeing now with the attacks on the buildings and insecurity at large, are you still optimistic?
It's really giving cause for concern. And this is bad because apart from the unforeseen happenings like flooding and all sorts of, burglary, arson on INEC offices and equipment was never contemplated. Because even when the INEC chairman was giving reports on some of the materials, buildings and what have you that they lost already and they have to replace, you know, when he was giving report in May this year, we never knew that this type of thing will come and compound the situation. But I'm still optimistic because we keep on solving problems. We are created by God to solve problems. You go to school to learn problem solving. And so every day, problem will come up and we look at ways of solving them. The election scheduled for February next year, we hold, and it will be successful.
Amen.
All right, so now let's just look at the INEC attacks in a broader context, in a historical context. Since 2021, there have been 41 incidents of attacks on INEC offices. 18 of them were arson, 20 were incidents of vandalism, and 3 were a combination of arson and vandalism. So this begs the question, one now wonders whether the INEC offices are being given the level of security that they deserve, considering the sensitivity of the nature of the business that INEC conducts. And why are we not being serious about securing the INEC buildings the same way we secure government buildings and government houses? In your opinion, why is INEC property not a priority when it comes to security?
Really, again, it gives room for concern. About 3 days ago, I went to a business center just to do something. And in that business center, I learned there is a bureau de change upstairs. I saw about 4 policemen guiding the bureau de change guy, 4 armed. Whereas a whole electoral office, INEC office, or INEC warehouse could just be, bombarded by hooligans or thugs and be set ablaze without any reprisal. Do you get my point? Mm-hmm. So one wonders, what really are taken to consideration while posting police of special force, to individuals, that are doing there are just private businesses, as against public institutions or public warehouses where, important equipments are stored. For instance, if there had been at least 3 policemen, armed policemen, in that center at Osun, or the one in they would have even repelled them. Not only arresting, they would have repelled them. And it wouldn't have happened at all. So I think despite all the efforts by the IGP, because really I have taken time to look at this particular IGP, Baba, and how he has handled his position, his jobs, to me, it gets my commendation. Indirect way, he has more or less made policing a community thing. Indirect way, through his posting of the police commissioners that head states, he had more or less even regionalized the posting. If you get to Osun today, the commissioner of police will be a Yoruba. If you get to Ondo, the commissioner of police will be Yoruba. If you get to Lagos, the commissioner of police will be Yoruba. So there is no problem of say, oh, it's because I don't understand the language of the man at the head of affair. No. Even the Nigerian Railways that has its headquarters in Lagos, yeah, the headship is a Yoruba. And if you go to the east, the people who can speak the language and repel the Bibiagu and work in consonance with the Bibiagus are commissioners of police that speak Igbo. So he has done a lot in this direction. And in terms of training, fantastic. And even when it comes to election period, I know he has already planned how he will deploy the AIGs to head zones, how he will deploy the commissioners and exchange them, and even down to the DPOs. I know that. And in terms of training, I have some police officers that are friends. In fact, some DPOs are undergoing courses in Kenya as I'm talking, in preparation for what we are doing. So, despite that, there's still room for correction. Instead of attaching so many people to individuals that their own motive is profit, things that can work against the success of this election, just give it priority. Just as Mr. President has told the whole world that this is priority. Just as the chairman of INEC has really displayed openly his passion and his commitment to free, fair, and hitch-free election. Let the IGP still do. Let him linger longer to get this thing, in a better position.
Very well said, Mr. Otitoju. Now, my question is about the balancing act, because we know what time it is in Nigeria in terms of insecurity. Even though the threats that were, the alerts by the US and the UK were somewhat dismissed and we said everything was under relative control, how do we ensure that if these officials or policemen or security officials that are deployed, that might be deployed to the INEC buildings, might not be taken away from some of the hot spots where, there's also danger that's posed? So how do we strike that balancing act?
I'm not saying that they should be taken from hot spots. I'm talking that they should be withdrawn from areas that are insignificant, that private security.
You can say it with your chest. Mopol should stop until elections. Is that what you're saying?
But in actual sense, the Mopol and police, they stay very far from the polling booth. No, they just maintain, considerable distance. But their presence within the community matters a lot. But before the election itself, That is the concern, because it's before the election that people plan and see how to circumvent, the arrangement by probably burning, the ballot boxes. For instance, in this coming election, we have almost voters registration of 95 million. Number of polling units, 176,846. Local government area, 774. Number of candidates, 12,163. And political parties, 18. Number of Senate seats, what have you. So what I'm saying is, out of 846 polling units, the Osun, Infano, the Ogun, we take away some of this. The other time when the chairman was giving his report, there are some areas too that it's really very difficult to ascertain whether election will take place there because no materials and some of the things that we use. But when it gets to this, if a community can protect its community, if there is no election in that community, that's their wahala. That's their wahala. The general election we hold, and anybody who perpetrates insecurity and whatever, and election doesn't hold in your area, if you are looking for House of Assembly or House of Rep and you can't get it, you can't get it. And that's it. So everybody must be put on there. Everybody must become a policeman to guide INEC properties so that this thing doesn't fail. You must be your brother's keepers, not leaving it to policemen alone or the military.
Now, as much as that's a noble idea, of course, this is still a state execution. This is a national execution. And we've already, we've introduced technology. We've redesigned the currency. And our real issue is now criminality. Now, if you were in the position to give an executive order similar to the one that said we should redesign the Naira notes, for example. If you're in that position, what type of executive order do you think should be given in light of what we're seeing? In light of, yes, fine, we know that there's a big framework of protecting the ballot during the election. Now, how do we protect the ballot before the election?
Indirectly, I've answered your question. Indirectly. IGP must change the strategy. He must get the AIGs or the Commissioner of Police to safekeep INEC properties by posting people, by changing the posting and get people to be responsible for some equipment, some buildings and what have you. He has to. How can just few thugs of maybe less than 20 people go to INEC and set it ablaze for the immediate response of people in, is it Oyo? The whole place will have been burnt down. But the community rallied around and repelled the people and put off the inferno. So the community too, they have responsibility, apart from the IGP posting people and whatever. Like in my area where I live, I don't need police. We come as a small, resident association, and we formulated our own security, and we put people there, and we pay. Now, except if something is perpetrated by house help or in connivance with your, domestic servant, there is no way anything can get missing in my zone. I don't want to mention where the zone is.
I think I know where that zone is. But In the meantime, in the interim, going off of what you just said about how in your own zone, you've taken your security into your own hands. Of course, most of the security personnel that were on duty at the time of these attacks were ill-equipped at the time. So pending that implementation, whereby the police is deployed to the INEC offices, hopefully that happens sooner rather than later. How feasible do you think it is to properly equip the security personnel that's already on ground in the interim?
You see, apart from police, we still have our own traditional way of securing our area through the traditional leaders, obas, obis. Okay, they are the first custodian of security in any community. If you are having INEC warehouse or whatever, let the Oba know and let him be recognized that this thing is in your domain. Okay? The one that was repelled in Iresi, that's Osun State. I know how that polling station got there. You know why the polling warehouse was there? Because former President Jonathan had his NYSC in Iresi, in Osun State. And as one of the gesture that he has lived there, maybe on the bunker bed and all sorts of things when he was serving youth corps. There are so many things he did for Iresi town. One of them was citing that in there. And the people, they want these people. I doubt if there is anything of value that was destroyed in Iresi because the people took it up. They didn't wait for police. Let communities do that. And in terms of
equipping them?
Pardon?
I'm asking if you're talking about equipping the personnel?
No, the personnel are equipped. Just post them. Woman presence matters a lot. A police in uniform without even equipment is a threat to thugs. It's a threat to anything unbecoming. But when the presence is not there at all, then you haven't done your work. Yeah.
Yep, some very valuable points there. Thank you so much for your insight every day on this show, Mr. Kayode Otitoju.